Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Don't mind the wind, which has decided to go absolutely bonkers today. But we're here for another weekly wrap-up. I can't believe it's a Saturday already. That's bonkers. Last Saturday I was neck deep in wedding stuff happening because my best friend got married, but we're back and it was another great reading week. But first I want to welcome a new channel member today. We have a new sassy supporter who is a part of the Book Refuge, and that is Tiffany Wolfert. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining. Your support means so much to me. If you're interested in checking out what I have to offer for channel memberships, the link is always in my description and you can see if that's something you would like to be a part of, but no pressure. Let's get back to what you're really here for and talk about the books that I read this week. Let's see, how many did I read? So we had a 14 book reading week, and a lot of these were between like two different series that I read. There's also quite a few arcs that I can only say minimal about, but I'm still really excited to talk about everything because it was just an amazing reading week. So here we go. The first book that I finished was Dom by Sophie Lark. This is the third book in her Underworld series. Or the fourth one. The third one? The fourth one. It's the fourth one, I think. Oh my gosh, how does it go? It's Ivan, Snow, Roman, Dom. Okay, it was the fourth one. Wow. Lots of Sophie Lark has been going on in my life, guys. It's a thing, my brain. This one was a, how do we describe Dom? This one was kind of a chance meeting in Paris. This girl is staying in Paris, and it seems like she has kind of an abusive father, maybe, is what it looks like. And then she happens to run into this guy who's a part of the mob, and she's an artist, and they end up just having this kind of like whirlwind romance. And then things start being revealed more about each of them and how dangerous they might be to each other. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I gotta be vague about that one. Sophie Lark always has such unique storylines. I know they say that every time, but it's true. She really is so unique with the story she tells. And so I gave this one 4 stars. So far, all the books in this series have been 4 stars, and it's just, I can't help but compare them with The Brutal Birthright and The Kingmakers, but they definitely are like, they're quicker reads than those ones, and again, they're so unique. No two of them are the same. So 4 stars is by no means a bad rating for Sophie Lark. It's just that I'm absolutely in love with some of her newer books, so I have to rate accordingly. Then I started this historical erotica series that is just, it is so interesting. It's so interesting. And so all of these books are on Audible, and I bought them on my Kindle as well. And I believe the first one, I don't know if it's still free, but that's why I bought the first one, and it was called The Villain, and it was kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it said that it was a dark historical erotica. So I was like, I'll give it a try. And there was an audiobook to go with it for like the $7 upgrade. So I was like, let's give it a try, which I highly recommend the audiobooks, guys, because the hero is Scottish and it is read by a man. All of these books are read by a man, and they are amazing. So the first one is called The Villain, and it's about this woman named Daphne who, her family has lost their money, they're losing their reputation, and there is this man who's trying to ruin them, and she doesn't know why. So she literally goes to his castle, demands that she get inside, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you what your family did and why I hate them so much, but there's 2 stipulations. Number 1, you're gonna let me ruin you. You're gonna live here with me for a month. You're gonna have all the dirty sex that I want you to have with me. And at the end of it, you're gonna be ruined, but I'll give you 30,000 pounds. So basically $1,000 pounds a day for you to be my sex slave. Not slave, but like available to me. And she wants to know so badly, and is also really intrigued by him and kind of by her own sexuality that she's willing to say yes to this because she wants to know what has created such hatred in this man. And so this is a duology. It's funny because originally the series was called like the Villains Duology, but then she wrote more of them, which I'm going to get to because I read a lot of these books. But then it was just turned into the Villain series. So you'll see there are a few different covers because I ended up getting the second set of them like in a pack. So you'll see that when you come to it. But the Villain and the Dove, which is the sequel to that, because the first one is kind of about those 30 days while she's staying with him. It has a cliffhanger and it doesn't have an HEA because it is a duology. So the Villain is first, which I gave 4 stars, and then the Dove is next. And it deals with, I mean, I wouldn't really consider this a spoiler alert since I said there's not an HEA, but it's dealing with us, dealing with the consequences of the feelings that were starting to happen and the fact that he still very much wants to ruin her family. And now she knows, which I won't tell you guys, but now she knows what her family did, and she's trying to live with that for what happened. So I really liked both of these. I did give them both 4 stars. They were really good. There was just a little something missing for me in, like, the hero was a very alpha asshole, and sometimes that rubs me the wrong way. And there were parts of this where he just couldn't get his head out of his own ass, and it was pushing me just a little too far. But this was very sexy. It was very steamy. It definitely had a bit of like a gothic vibe to it. And I mean, I really enjoyed myself. Because then what I did is there's actually 5 books in this series. There's a duology that's about this couple. There's a duology that's about a different couple, which I'll talk about in a second. And then there's a sequel novella that's about a Christmas. It's called The Gift. And it's about both of these couples at like Christmas. And so after the ending of The Dove, I really needed more HEA for this couple because it's one of those where like they get their HEA kind of on the last page. So I skipped the second 2 to read this novella, and I gave that 4.5 stars. I really loved the novella. It gave me a lot more of what I needed of seeing the hero like be in love and not be fighting his feelings so much. So I will get to some more books in this series because I am going back and reading the other 2, but I read some other books in between there, so we'll talk about those. So then I read on Audible, and I have the series. I read The Risk by Elle Kennedy. This is book 2 in the Briar U series. These are sports, new adult, contemporary romances. And this one is about Jake Connolly, who is the Harvard's star forward, and I can't remember her name, Brenna, who is the daughter of Briar U's coach. So there's a conflict of interest there that they are bitter rivals, and they have, of course, this enemies to lovers, but they are very attracted to each other, and they end up striking up a relationship. This one was going so well for me. I did like it better than the first one, The Chase. And the reason why I liked it a lot better is I understood the hero and the heroine better in this one. I knew where they were coming from. They had reasons to be kind of fighting their feelings for each other because they are from these rival teams, and both her dad and his family will be very upset, you know, or I mean his team, his family wouldn't really care who he was with, but his team would be very upset if their captain was dating the coach's daughter from the other team. But I really loved their chemistry. There was some great steam in this. What kind of made it falter for me was the dark moment of the book. Our hero's been so great the whole time, and then he did kind of a face plant, and I was just like, why? Like, why did he do this? But I feel that way so often, and I know that authors have to have conflicts in their books. I just feel like there was a way to do it where he didn't look like quite such an asshole. But I still gave it 4 stars. I like trying to throw in these contemporary ones to break up a lot of the dark and steamier books that I read. And so this is a great series to do that with. I'm very excited to read the play. I hear that that's a lot of people's favorite one, and so I can't wait to give it a go. Then, oh boy, this was fun. I got to read an early copy of Vicious Protector by Maggie Cole. And now I've talked about Maggie Cole quite a lot lately. I still will be talking about her more. Look, I have one of her bookmarks right here, because she is donating some books to the Mafia readathon that I set up that is next weekend, which is going to be super fun. And she's been giving me advanced copies of her books because here's the thing, and just a little bit of news. Like, her first 2 books are out. The third one comes out on June 1st, which should be the Tuesday that this is coming out. And it's the Mafia War series that she has, which again, it says it on here. And she's putting out 1 book in this series, the first of every month from here to like December. She has most of them already written. They all have beautiful covers. You can check it out on Goodreads. You're going to see some of them right now because I read quite a few. And each one has just been such a ride. It has just been fantastic. So these are the ones that I meant, like, I can't say a lot about these because some of them are months away from coming out. And I really don't want to spoil anything, but I will tell you, like, kind of what's like in the blurb of each of these, because she does have a blurb already for these books on the Goodreads, so I'm not really spoiling anything by saying that. But this one is A Vicious Protector. I believe this one is Adrian and Skylar. I believe so. I think this one is Adrian and Skylar. If I'm wrong, I'll put a note here, but I think I'm right. This one is actually my only 4-star in the series. I won't say why. Part of it had to do is there was elements of this one that felt very repetitive, like the relationship notes between the 2 characters. And also I had really high hopes for Adrian because I was really looking forward to him and Skylar's book. And then it was a little bit frustrating how it like played out because, again, it felt pretty repetitive from like Cora and Sergei's situation and the one before. And so I think if I hadn't been reading these books like back to back to back the way that I wouldn't have picked up on that. But that's just one of the things of binging books that's going to happen. So this was still 4 stars for me. I think a lot of y'all are going to love Adrian. I had my eye on him from the first book too. And I mean, I do love her books and I love this family. Like, if you're one who you're in the Mafia books because you love the family, the Mafia Wars are so the books for you. They are fantastic. And again, pretty much all of the characters that I've read, they all have been over 30, which is really great. Nobody has been like virginal, I don't think. I don't think anybody's been a virgin that I read so far. Don't count me on that, but I'm pretty sure nobody's been a virgin so far. And so it's just a like breath of fresh air as it goes for Mafia reads because, yeah, it's just amazing. Then I read He Saw Me First by M. Johnson. And this was a book I saw on TikTok as one that is like a boyfriend's dad scenario. This book, guys, was so wild. I would say it's suspenseful. I would say that it is not what it appears when you go into it. So this one starts off with this girl who's like on vacation. I think she's in Paris, and there's this guy who's able to like see her. I don't know if it's like through windows or how it happens. I can't remember that part, but they end up like seeing each other when she's like undressing and things like that. And so they have this crazy connection. And then they end up having a night together, but they like never say what their name is because he makes his way into her room and they fuck. And they like don't know who each other is. Then it fast forwards a year and she's in a relationship with a guy. Like, she's just starting a relationship with him. They've been friends for a long time and he's finally kind of like pushed her into being in a relationship. And I do mean kind of pushed her into it. And then he takes her to meet his dad. And his dad is this man from a year ago. And that's all that I want to say about the setup of this. This is one where there would be what you would call cheating. But again, this book isn't what it seems. So I don't know how else to say that. I don't like cheating in books. Y'all know it. But when certain things happen in this book, because it was a pretty short one. It's only around 200 pages. So I was like, well, let me just finish it. I've seen this on quite a few TikToks. Let me see. And boy, did the ending make me understand what was going on. However, I gave this book a 3.5 stars because of the ridiculous amount of trigger warnings for a book that's only 200 pages. oof. There is thoughts of suicide, attempted suicide multiple times by the same person. There is self-harm. There is drug use. There is people being drugged. There is attempted assault and rape. There is so many things that happen in this book. And I think the author laid them out well. Like, I don't want to say any of it felt gratuitous because, again, this is more suspenseful than just being like a little erotic short or something. Like, there is a full plot. It's just that I feel like 200 pages wasn't enough for it. I feel like this needed more. It had elements that I love from like a Pam Godwin book, the way that this is set up in the pieces, but it was just too short. However, this is the beginning in a series that I think is called like Sweet Temptations or like Bad Temptations, and I think it's all going to be like forbidden age gaps is what the series is going to be, because yeah, obviously this is an age gap too. And I'm very interested in seeing how that all plays out and everything. So I gave it 3.5 stars just because I felt extremely uncomfortable during a lot of parts, and it wasn't the sexy times. It was, oof, especially the suicide triggers. Like, there was also something beautiful done with it at the same time. That's why I don't want to just trash it, because I think the right person, this book would be very moving for you. But for me, it was just like, whew, this is a lot. Also, Crystal, if you're watching, I'm drinking your drink right now. I finally got coconut syrup and limes, and I made lime and coconut Diet Coke. I love you. All right. Next, I read The Genius by Elin, however we're saying that. This is book 6 in the Men of the North series, and I think I'm going to be coming to a close with this series. I really liked it. I do still feel like the first 5 in this series were really great. But based on how I felt while reading this book, as well as what I've heard from my friends who've continued the series, it is too anxious-inducing for me, and I feel like the same arguments are getting repeated, which were very interesting in the first few. The look at toxic femininity and toxic masculinity and what happens when they bump up, and that both are wrong in their own ways, and just all these things. And this series is fascinating, this Men of the North series, but there's like 15 books in it, and I think I've learned what I needed to learn from the beginning books. If I were to return to it, I would maybe cherry pick which ones that I read if they sounded interesting, but this was a lot. So I did give this one 4 stars because it pulled it off in the end. But this one is the first one. There is a 10-year time jump now. So now marriages have been happening between the Landers and the Northmen for a while. You can sign up for a dating program and marry people. And there were these two that this one woman ends up becoming a sex bot like creator and researcher, because that's something that happens in these books, is that since there are, you know, there's a place where just millions of men live and there's hardly any women for them. There's like 1 woman to every 100,000 men. They have sex bots that they can go to relieve themselves. And this girl who she was part of the educational program in the previous generation of books. She is now a genius, and she's one of these researchers, and a man that she used to have a crush on ends up coming to test out a new sex bot, and the sex bot breaks. And so she decides to step in, and she doesn't mean to pretend to be a sex bot, but he assumes that since she came in replacement of that one, that she's a new sex bot. And instead of telling him, and instead of informing him, she pretends to be a new version of a sex bot that is like a real woman and is the virgin version. And so he has sex with her, and she lies that she's a person, or that she's a human. And I never got over that, because this woman who is a genius, they play her off like she's so naive, and that if a man, and I mean, it even gets presented to her at one point by the hero, who says it in kind of a joking way even, which says a lot about it to me. Like, oof. He's like, if I had done that to you, if me as a man had pretended to be a sex bot so I could fuck you, they would put me to death. because Northmen are not even supposed to touch women without their permission, which is great. They shouldn't. But the things that Ellen Peer has done in the past to show the grave despondency of, like, you know, consent being different from men to women, I feel like she dropped the ball with this one a little bit, in a way that it was mentioned, but it wasn't hammered home. And part of it is because our hero, he knows this woman. Eventually he remembers that he knows her, and he's like okay with it because she's pretty. And there's so much to unpack with it. And so I did end up giving it 4 stars. Again, I know I'm only talking about the front half of the book. There was a lot of stuff that happened at the end that, like, brought it up for me. But man, was it tough, guys. It was tough to get through. And I just don't know that I trust the author the same way that I did before. Because I feel like there was much more discussion about when we came into these vast discrepancies between the feminism and the, you know, manliness. And this just really dropped the ball for me, because to me, you know, and to all of us, it shouldn't matter what your gender is if you're the one doing the assaulting. And that's what happened. And she even at one point said, oh God, she even at one point says to him, you came, you liked it. If I had been a sex bot, you would have been fine. And he's like, that's not the point, because you aren't a toy, you're a person, you know. And it just didn't get us serious with that conversation we needed to. Okay, then I listened to Wicked Fall by Sawyer Bennett. This was on my list, my TBR of books that I had gotten for free. This was also on AnyPlay, so I was able to listen to this for free. And this is about a cowboy sex club, which is amazing. And it is in, I can't remember if they're in Montana or Texas or wherever, but this cowboy and his friend own a bar, and then there is a backroom sex club called the Silo that they also own, because they're both into kink. And then a girl that he used to love or like a lot, who was his best friend's sister, the best friend actually has died. She's back into town because she caught her fiance cheating on her, and so she's coming to stay with her dad, who happens to be the governor of the state. Okay, so when she ends up being interested in him, he's like afraid that she won't like his kink, and she's afraid that he doesn't want to be with her because of whatever reasons, and they end up exploring a lot of things together. And I really liked it. Like, I really liked this. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only reason I knocked off half a star is I feel like part of the story of this one was the hero discovering that he didn't like kink as much as he thought, and that he was a very possessive hero once he found someone he loved. And so she was willing to experiment at his club, and he decided that he didn't want to be there anymore. He just wanted to, not that they would have boring sex now, but he didn't want to do stuff at the club anymore. And I was kind of disappointed, because I was like, you're marrying a guy who owns a sex club. But for this particular story, it could ruin her father's career if she's with someone who owns the sex club. So I understood it. So I gave it 4.5 stars though still. And I have the other of the books waiting on my AnyPlay, and I'm definitely going to continue the series, because I think that in some of the future books, we won't back away from the kink so much, which would be great. Then I got to read Savage Tracker by Maggie Cole, and this one is about Selena and Albrecht. Yes, okay. I was confused before between the two, but this one, again, another one, I can't say too much. This is going to be book 5, and it is the last of the Ivanov brothers, because there's 3 brothers and 2 brothers, so they're like cousins and brothers and all these things. And Selena is someone we meet in a previous book. You will meet Selena in book 3 that comes out on June 1st. And again, to keep it like blurb friendly, so I don't spoil anything, I love these books so much. Once they're all out, I'll have to do like a deep dive into this series, because it's so good. She recently got out of a abusive marriage that one of our heroines, who's a lawyer, helped her with. And in this book, we find out what was happening in that marriage. And she is currently living in a building that is like owned by the Ivanovs, so she feels very safe there. And Albrecht, who is one of her neighbors, they just ask him to kind of keep an eye on her to make sure that she's safe. And this book is one of the kinkiest, and I can't say any more than that. But there is something about both of them. There's something that they both like that they are afraid to bring up to the other person. And once that happens, once they bring it up, I cried so many times reading this book. Guys, this one was 6 stars, I'll just tell you. I gave this book 6 stars. It does so many of the things that I'm looking for in a dark romance and just in a romance in general. And I cannot wait until I can talk to you more fully about it, which is months from now. And I'm sorry I read it so soon, but I'm not sorry because it was amazing. Then I read Twisted Love by Anna. I don't remember the last name off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Here's the cover. I think I wrote it down wrong, so I didn't want to just... But this one that's been going around on the TikToks, and everyone's been reading it and just been goo for gaga for it. And I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed myself. 2 things. I think I had too high of expectations, and I think that I was expecting this to be a darker romance than it was, just from the cover and from what people were saying. But this is a brother's best friend. This is a neighbor, like forced proximity, because they end up being neighbors. When her brother like moves away for a while, he's going to be doing like a stay in another country. His friend moves in to his house, which is right next to her house. And so this is about these two and their slow burn towards each other. And this is a morality chain, and this is a touch her and I'll kill you. And like, for real, there's some great scenes where that's happening. And it was good. It was good. Where my issues for it came was near the end of the book. Once we had our like big conflict, some of the things we had to go through to resolve the conflict, they're not my favorite. I don't know how else to say that. It's very big. Also, another thing, I felt like they had a very slow burn up to the first, like, you know, time together. And then it was like, yay, we're together. And then it was problem. And I never like that when that happens. Like, if you're going to slow steam it for me, I need some time where a couple is happy before you immediately are putting them through shit. It's just a personal thing. And then this book does one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'm not going to say it because it's a spoiler and it's not a trigger or anything. It's literally just a pet peeve thing. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I really want to read the next book in the series, which is going to be like a royal romance. So please, I'm very excited for that one. And I'm going to keep reading this author. I will now not expect the books to be as dark or as steamy as I was thinking. And so you guys know what some people think is dark and steamy. I'm like, have you read Pam Godwin? If you compare it to Pam Godwin and still tell me it's spicy, then I'll believe you. All right. Then I finished Someone to Romance by Mary Balogh. This is book 7 in the Westcott series. I needed to catch up in this series because I actually did get an arc for book 8 in the series, which is finally going to be Harry Westcott's book. I've been waiting this whole time, and so I needed to catch up on this. I did give this 4 stars. This is about Lady Jessica Archer, who is the half-sister to Avery Archer, who is like the hero from the first book. And Jessica's finally ready to get married, and then we meet Gabriel Thorne, who is now an earl. I think he's recently become an earl. And so it's kind of weird because like she's looking for a husband, she's ready to be married, she wants a family, she wants that to happen, and he doesn't necessarily need an heiress because he's not poor, but he's looking to marry someone respectable and someone to kind of cement his position, because he's been in America for many years, and he actually left under a cloud of scandal where he was accused of murder and rape. Okay, he was accused of some big things, and because he moved to America, those rumors just fostered and grew. And so he's come back because he's now an earl, and he's here to clear his name, and having a titled, you know, a woman on his arm would help that. So as always, like Mary Balogh, she has very low steam. This is very romantic and sweet, and there's lots of mentions of the family members. I really have to be in a particular mood when I read a Mary Balogh book, and this week I wasn't in that mood. So I feel like I would have liked this better if I'd been in the right mood. But I needed to get through this book. It's been on my TBR for quite a while, and I want to read that arc. So it was still beautiful. I mean, if you love Mary Balogh, you're going to love this book, you know? Then I read Unchosen Ruler by Maggie, and this one is the first one in the O'Malley's side of the Mafia Wars. So the first 5 were about Ivanovs, and then I think the second, I don't know if there's going to be 5 more, but for sure there's 4 that are going to be O'Malley's. Again, I can't say much about this. Liam is a character we meet in previous books. He is going to be he is the heir to the O'Malley family, and this book is about him and Haley, who Haley is a kindergarten teacher, but she's a freak in the sheets. That's all I'll say. There is something called a treat box in this book, and I'm not going to spoil and tell you what it is, but I was reading it on my lunch break, and I texted Maggie, and I was like, Maggie, the fucking treat box. That is all. And once you read it, you'll know what I mean. It's fantastic. I really loved this one. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved Liam so much. He's an ex-con, which I know a lot of the Mafia people are, but for reals, like at the beginning of this book is him getting out of prison. He was there for 15 years. I think he's 43 or 45, and he's 42. Yeah, he's 42 and she's like 33 or something. So the age gap really isn't a factor in this. That's the thing. It's like, to me, when both characters are over 30, like age gap isn't really a thing. I know some people still mention them if they are, but he's like stunted in so many ways just because he missed out on like the tech revolution, and he missed out on like so many things by being in prison. And now he's out and his father is dying. And so he has a short amount of time to learn everything that's been going on with the O'Malleys and the relationships that have been happening with the Ivanovs and their enemies and all of these things. So there's a lot of pressure on this man now that he has come out of prison. And when he meets Haley, she's just this sweet, naughty ray of sunshine, and he grabs on with both hands. And it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. But I won't talk about it too much, y'all can't read it till like August, May, whenever it is, or August, September. So, but it was great. Okay, it was great. And then the last one I have to talk about is coming back to that historical erotica I talked about. I read The Butterfly by Victoria Vale. So this is book 3, and I can't say a lot about this one because the duology, like I said, is about Adam and Daphne, and he wants revenge against her. And the person he wants revenge for is the heroine of this book, which it's his sister. Won't tell you what happened. And this romance is between his sister and his best friend, who is also his butler, who is also Scottish, who is also amazing. And I gave this book 4 stars as well. The few things that detracted it for me is that it basically takes place over the same time as book 2, and I just don't love that. But this book, the trigger warnings for this book are a lot. Our heroine has survived sexual assault. She has been in a drug-induced stupor for years, and so there are withdrawals that she's going through, and she's remembering traumas, and she has nightmares and all of these things. So definitely check the trigger warnings for that. But it was so beautiful. Also because the hero, like I said, he's her brother's butler. There is absolutely not a shred of drama about him being a butler and her being a lady. That is not what this is about, and I loved that. It was all about helping Olivia heal and him deciding, like, you know what, staying away from her isn't making her better. In fact, like, I make her better when I'm with her. And I love that. It makes me warm and fuzzy. So yeah. All right, those are all the books that I read this week. I'm so excited. I'm doing a weekend reading vlog, reading new releases this weekend. So I'm very excited to dive into that. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out channel memberships if you're interested. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. And if you'd like to see some more, you can do that right now. Bye.